Good evening, my name is Rory and you're watching The Varietal Show. What is The Varietal Show? It's a write-along stream. It's where we take prompts and write stuff together. If you're not interested in the writing of it and you're not watching it live, if you check in the description below, there's timestamps where you can go to the stories that are already written and I read them out at the end of the stream. But if you want to participate, even if you're not watching live, with the various prompts and ideas that we come up with the chat and write out, then hang out. That's what we're gonna do. We call it lit games for literature games, but that's what we're doing. We're writing. If you want to have some fun writing with us, well, welcome. This is Varietal Literature's YouTube page that you're on. Varietal Literature is a group of writers from Vancouver who have fun with narrative. It's generally me that you see in the streams, but there are a bunch of us and they pop up here and there. Yeah, that's what we're doing. We're writing tonight. So if you want to write along, you can actually write your own thing. You don't need to do anything with me. And either put it in the live chat if you're watching live or put it in the comments below. And I'll read it aloud, as long as it's not like horrifying and foul. I see GS is in the chat. Hello, GS. Good evening. And yeah. I mean, I like Christmas. I don't know if other people like Christmas. I ran into something the other day that I hadn't thought of for a while, which is, what do you eat for Christmas breakfast? And the thing I was looking at was like, they eat freshly baked cinnamon buns, which sounds delicious, but that wasn't really what I was known for. So what is your Christmas breakfast? I am curious. While you guys think about that, and if you want to join me in the live chat, you can. I'm going to tell you about tonight's lit game. Again, stands for literature game. Which is like an expressive game, if you know that term. We just do random little expressive games, sometimes with dice, sometimes with prompts, sometimes with pictures, just anything kind of random to get inspired off. And then we write kind of like pieces of flash fiction or vignettes, just to keep those writing muscles going. And you know, because writing's a solitary activity, it can be a little lonely. So what we're going to do tonight is, I was thinking about the fact that on Tuesday, when we do Fireside Fairy Tales, where I read folk tales together, we did one this week about the Wild Hunt, but specifically about how the Wild Hunt is basically the basis of our modern conception of Santa. I know most people are going to say it's St. Nicholas, but if you actually look at the comparison between how we conceive of Santa now and St. Nicholas, you'll find that there really isn't much in common between the two. There's a couple of things, but it's a stretch. What I think Santa's really based on is the Wild Hunt, and I read some never really read aloud versions, at least in English, of German folklore on Tuesday. A bunch of little short pieces about various areas of Germany's conception of the Wild Hunt and how it changed and eventually starts to basically resemble Santa Claus. What does that have to do with tonight? It made me realize that, like, our version of Santa Claus right now hasn't really taken in much account of a pretty rapidly changing world. We're still talking about him, like, you know, carving toys and things like that. And you see bits and pieces of it in modern movies and stuff, but it's always sort of played for a joke and not any real serious explanation of how does Santa, for example, deal with an era of cell phones? Should we update our rhymes about Santa to include, like, he sees your tweets? Just basically with a sense of sincerity, I guess, but also humor. How do you integrate Santa so that you could tell it to what are they calling it? Gen Alpha, the one after Gen Z, to a Gen Alpha kid and have them be like, that makes sense. Because I think we could update the Santa mythos. And so that's what we're doing tonight. We're gonna sort of I'm gonna write it as he's walking to his sleigh to take off for the night. And along that walk, he will encounter things, new departments he had to hire, stuff like that. And this is where you come in, chat. What sort of modern stuff has changed in the last 100 years that you think the Santa myth should take into account? And I'll try to integrate it into our sort of reintroduction of a Santa in a modern era. Not so much changing Santa, but changing the mythos. And if you don't know what any of that means, hey, hang out. It'll make sense when we start doing it. Which means I've already written the first sentence, by the way. I'm calling this Santa 2.0. It's December 24th. Oh, hey, I've been fiddling around with soundboards. And I found first of all, most soundboards are just like anime noises, and I don't know what informs that, but I found a soundboard here. All I wanted was a Santa ho ho ho. And now I don't actually know how loud this is going to be, so apologies if this blows your ears out, but I found this. Ho 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 ho! Okay, well that is deafening. And I have no control over that. I don't know why that was so loud. But for anybody who still can hear, I'm going to click one more. So, like, audio warning. Here it goes.
Santa's coming to town!
Santa! Oh my God!
Which hopefully comes through, but that's from the movie Elf. It's a great, even if you don't like Will Ferrell, I think that reaction is legendary. I wanted like some sound effects for Santa because I was like, oh, that'll be fun for the stream. But all I really found was like disturbing, cringy sounds. So we're not using the soundboard much. You said it's not too loud for you. Oh, wow. It redlined here. Like that's not based on my ears because my volume's all over the place. That's based on my meter here. It couldn't have been louder. Anyways, it's December 24th. Santa stands and begins his walk through his departments and out to his sleigh. And so begins, just fleece it out, says Elf is a fantastic movie. I enjoy the hell out of Elf. I watched Elf in theaters. I wish I could say as a kid, because then it would make me seem younger. Just fleece it out says it was so loud. Yeah, I know. Unfortunately, I have like literally no control over the volume, so we're not using the soundboard for this. There's a soundboard I use for Fireside Fairy Tales program that's made for actually RPGs, like tabletop RPGs. But that I do have volume control on. I don't on these janky soundboards with Santa. So let's begin. What is like the biggest change that's occurred in, let's say, about the last 100 years, that if you were trying to tell the Santa mythos so that it felt believable, what is like the big thing that Santa would have to deal with? And for me, the first thing that comes to mind is cell phones videotaping him. Now, it is true. We could just say magic, but there's like very little interest in that. Just me waving at magic. So I think the first thing that Santa would have had to have done is, yeah, Big Drew just said cell phones. Absolutely. I think that's the biggest thing. And I think the first thing Santa will have to have done is hired a bunch of like hackers and tech people to create sort of jamming software or interference or EMPs even in emergency. So that's like the first sort of scene as he walks out to his sleigh that I think we should write, which means that I need some people that Santa hired because they're good at like technology, but maybe aren't as jolly and because like programmers aren't going to be like regular elves, right? Regular elves were evolved to make toys and they're very happy and they're obedient, but we're talking about like some programmers here. So we need like names and some personality traits of the people he's going to walk through. I'm going to start writing it. He's going to walk through like his tech department and double check that his tech is all ready to defend his privacy. Big Drew says, I carry a device in my pocket that contains the answers to all the questions in the universe. I use it to look at videos of cats. That is true. Oh, just fleece it out, says Edward Snowden. That's where Edward went. All right, fine. Yeah, that's a good one. Santa would have traditionally... Come on. I've often wondered if I do like talk to text, whether this would work better, but my experiences with talk to text are real meh. Santa would have traditionally walked down the steps of his ancient magical toy factory, waved to his wife and many workers, then snapped the reins of his reindeers to fly off into the night. However, things were different in 2022. And Santa GS says the sleigh is a hybrid. I love it. Oh, GS said Santa's wearing a Fitbit. I love that. I think I can work that in a second here. So, and Santa had several additional departments he had to check with to deal with a new world. He sighed a deep sigh and pressed open the door marked electronic surveillance and privacy department. All right, let's see what names we got. I saw a couple come up there. Inside, there was a staff of tech workers and programmers more prone to cynicism and sarcasm than Santa's regular elves. Ho ho ho! Edward, Greg, Deacon, and Chad. Edward! Greg! Deacon! And of course, Chad. I hope you've all been good this year. Santa greeted them with a strained smile. Big Drew says in 100 years, the evils of the world have far surpassed Ebenezer Scrooge. Yeah. I remember some people were doing the inflation calculation on what was considered poverty then, and how it would be like an okay wage today. She says if you're naughty, you get bitcoins in your stocking. Are you wearing a Fitbit? Edward said, rolling his eyes to his friends, to his peers, I guess. They're not necessarily friends. Why, yes! Mrs. Claus got it as an early gift to... Well, Mrs. Claus isn't charged with keeping you secure from data leaks. Chad snickered. You can't be wearing a tracking bracelet. Obviously. Before Santa knew it. Deacon was helping himself to Santa's wrist. Well, no. Mrs. Claus gave that as a gift. No can do. Anyways, we have the emergency EMP blast. Just get it sewn into your jacket down in logistics and fashion. Does Santa have a fashion department? What would be going on in the fashion department? Oh, hey, I'm going off the screen. Remember, it's one-time use, but will blast any cell phone or electronics in range if you happen to have some naughty kids trying to TikTok you. Edward said. What an idea, Snowden. My dear boy, Snowden. What is a TikTok? Santa asked, trying to smile to the steely-faced and humorless men before him. One of the reindeers is the Shaggin. Okay. Just use the EMP pulse if you see a phone. Old man. Said Chad. Said with an eye roll. And you aren't getting your Fitbit back. Santa was edged out of the room, but not before shouting, "But my steps! How will I know them?" Big Drew says they're a wintry pseudonym we could use for TikTok, like Snowball. But I want it to actually work for kids, right? Like I want the stuff they're dealing with to be recognizable. I think the humor for me, anyways, is in Santa just not getting any of this. Right. Okay, so he consulted, and they gave him an EMP pulse. Santa continues on down. He's down his multi-level plaza of toy distribution to his next department. Okay, guys. What's the next department? What do you think a modern Santa, the other thing? I mean, he's got people that are watching his security, and he's got like an EMP pulse if he gets caught by a cell phone. What else has occurred? Like, does Santa manage his brand? This sounds like a joke, but it's not. Today I was thinking about, would Santa manage his brand? Because he's not supposed to really, like, obviously exist. He's supposed to be mysterious, right? But also, I think he would be very concerned. So, like, it would have to be pretty subtle. Like, he would have to be subtly doing things like reporting, blasphemous, or not blasphemous. I can't think of the word I'm trying to think of, because I got distracted by the music for a minute. I do like the idea that he has fashion now, because one of the things is like his fashion is chuggy. Does that bring in my Gen Z crowd? I don't have a Gen Z crowd. Gen Z doesn't have the attention span for this. Millennials barely do, and that's my bread and butter. Big Drew says stocking fillers. What are the new snacks, trinkets, and stockings? Oh yeah, that's a good point. Oh, one thing that does stand out is, in order for him to, like, GS's anti-Santa stuff, yeah, like a propaganda division. But Big Drew also makes a good point, which is the factories involved. There's a sexy Santa now? Oh my god. Collectively, chat has come up with this idea that Santa kind of has to do advertising now. So, like, he has to get Raid Shadow Legends sponsorships. For those who are too old to know what the hell that's about, Raid Shadow Legends is a terrible cell phone game that the way that they've sort of eaten up the market is they went to every single YouTuber in existence, and they went to every single YouTuber in existence. I'm sorry, Just Please It Out just said Miss Claus gets an OnlyFans. Anyways, this terrible phone game, they just went to every YouTuber in existence, as far as I can tell, and it's just, if you watch YouTube regularly, it's just these people that clearly do not care about this stupid cell phone game being like, Raid Shadow Legends. So he's got to get contract. How does he market when he's supposed to be invisible? How does he market? Big Drew says Saint Nick talk. Santa continues down his multi-level path of toy distribution to his next department. Marketing. Well, Santa finds the tedious cynicism of his electronic security division tiring. Truly, he hated nothing more than the toxic positivity of his marketing division. Santa had long held that Santa thrived on what his team would have called grassroots, word of mouth, high energy youth messaging, or he would have called kids talking about him. Oh, download now and get a Santa bonus. Okay, yeah. Yeah, like in the stocking or something. Okay, I think I know how we can do this. Big Drew says, the Department of Good and Evil, naughty was found to be too risque a term in recent test groups, so the department was forced to reban. I think we're on to something with this marketing. I think I could spend the next 30 minutes writing a marketing scene for Santa. Because here's the thing. I've had to deal with marketing people, and they barely do anything. It's not that marketing is pointless. It's that everyone I've ever met in marketing barely did anything. I'm sure someone out there is a highly motivated creative marketer who actually lives up to all of that and comes up with ideas. I remember the disconnect when I was dealing with marketing departments and divisions and so on, between like how Mad Men shows it, which admittedly is like a completely different time and a different approach to marketing, but it gives this impression that like there's teams of people who do this research and come up with stuff. And at the very high level, sort of. But for the most part, it's like somebody who's like, I can put this ad on Google for you. What age group do you want? And you're like, I thought that was something you figured out. Like, what should we be targeting? They're like, no, you send me a message. We'll refine it a bit and we'll put it. Like, it's like people who post wanted ads for you. But they talk in a ridiculous way. Okay. So before I lose track of everything, he's going into the marketing department. I need like some marketing characters. Santa let out a 15-second sigh before pushing open the door to his marketing department. He could barely stand to smile as the many clean and trendy suited people stretched their lips open to big white bleached tooth smiles and said, "Oh, it is a wonderful day, isn't it? Big guy? Wait, it is the big day. They love stuff like that. It is the big day, isn't it, big guy? There are so many ideas in chat. I think this might be the first time that I legitimately will not have time to add them all in. But I will get as many in as I can. And I guess just so that we have an ending, it'll just be like Santa skips the rest of the departments and runs to his sleigh. Yes. Derek. It's the big day. Ho, ho, ho. Santa wheezed out. Can't wait to get those presents to all the good kids. Ooh. Right, big guy. We discussed this. But now is as good a time as any for a refresher. Derek said and gestured to Teresa, who was off to the side, seemingly prepared to pick at Santa's blunders. I wish I'd seen that, Big Drew. That's amazing. Big Drew said Derek turned to Brenda and asked if that ho-ho felt insincere to her. I think I could probably still fit that in. Santa already knew what was coming. As a part GS says HR. Now listen. We're all having fun here. Nobody wants to think about HR. I've written about serial killers, monsters, body horror. You gotta have a content, line somewhere. Some things are too disturbing. Santa already knew it was coming as a part of a expensive bit of market research. It was concluded that the word naughty had adopted too many, or collected too many risque associations and would no longer be appropriate to be used for the intended child of minimal moral fiber. Which was what they were called for about 2 months until further research found that didn't test well. And instead, the term, what was the term you guys had? Troubled was found to be the least controversial, with children from 8 to 12 and adults with children of that age. Now, that didn't end there, but the short of it is, instead of a naughty and nice list, Santa would refer to it as a troubled and what is like a term? What is a toxically positive term for a good kid? Come on, I'm irritable enough to think of stuff like this. The internet is full of nonsense like this. Troubled and centered children. Alright, I'll be American centered. High emotional IQ? Though there was discussion that misunderstood and high performing EQ young persons might be the final, might be the next draft of the name. So as Teresa re-explained this, Santa cut her off with a, "Oh, ho, 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 I know you mean well, but I have to go." Derek, Teresa said, "Did that ho feel sincere to you?" Derek shook his head. "No, bud. You gotta find a solid hoe in you. Remember, that's our main piece of marketing out in the meat space. You don't want to run billboards. You gotta get that hoe. Loud and proud, bud. Yes, yes. I'll work on my hose. Muttered Santa flatly. And don't forget the flyers for the misunderstood kids. Derek said. Santa nodded. With inflation being what it is, what it was, and concerns about the moral arbitration of an ancient elf man. It had been decided that all kids would get gifts, but the less savory ones would have to have their gift cost supplemented by brand tie-ins like Raid, Shadow Legends, and oh, what is it? And Squarespace flyers. Oh man, there's so much stuff here, guys. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to play favorites here. Santa stared down at one of the flyers. It said, "Download now and use the code Santa Rocks for half off your first Ultra Armor set." I should have, honestly, if I could do this again, I think I probably would have just had Santa talk to the marketing department. There's so much gold here. Yeah. GS says we're Santa specialists, no end to our creativity. Oh boy, okay. Big Drew says, I'm enjoying this take on holiday music. Where did you find it? So I put together my own lists based on stuff from Epidemic Sound. But what I will do, because I don't actually think I have this in the description, is I'll just put the link to my Spotify playlist in the chat right now. So if you guys want to come back to it later, you're welcome to. There you go. Of course, you guys are going to receive that as a message before you receive the context, which will be maybe confusing. Okay. Use this QR code to fill your list straight from the North Pole's online store. Santa had several more stops before he was to fly out. He was meant to check on an issue in the chip factory with a leak, with a shortage of silicone. He had several brief meetings. He was meant to partake in with the safety team on the packaging lines. He was supposed to sign off on a deal with Amazon to have stand-in Santas. I sort of lost the plot on what this was meant to be. Deliver some of his more spread out visits to reduce his mana costs for travel. Santa didn't care about an orderly operation. He wanted to get to giving gifts. And so, feeling suddenly light of heart, he walked past his fashion department, his steel foundry, his international import division, which had never mind. And his 50 square miles of factories, 10 of which was just a lumber mill being fed a forest a day to make all the wrapping paper he required. Big Drew likes Steel Foundry. Until he reached his 2 miles 2-mile long sleigh. And yes, he still has most of his reindeer, though about 4 of them tried to unionize, so he fired them. Wait. So he ate them. And replaced them with a hybrid drive. As much as I like he ate them, I'm not going to do that. He fired them and replaced them with a hybrid drive. He ordered custom from Elon Musk at Tesla. And now, when he finally reached his pilot station, he started up the sleigh, and, of course, the hybrid drive exploded into flames and drove the remaining reindeer with twice the force to take off into the sky. All chocolate Santas are vegan, says GS. Santa gets Uber Eats delivered throughout the night of deliveries. You know, I didn't think to check. Is this playlist public? I think it is. So kids, when you look up and see the flaming, smoldering drive, Tesla branded drive, choking Santa with its smoke. And his remaining reindeer doing the work of twice as many on a temporary gig contract. Just remember, 'tis the season in 2022. Enjoy it while you can, because the melting permafrost is going to collapse all of Santa's factories. And then Christmas is done. To all good night and a merry day. For children of all moral persuasions. Oh, that's a good one. Merry Christmas to all, and to all a fully sponsored night. I think I have another one. Merry... What? Come on. Merry Christmas to all, and to all Use good night Santa 6 at the checkout for Audible to get your first 6 audiobooks free. Copyright Santa Division. I can't think of a good name for it. Okay. Wow, did we go nuts on that? Okay, let's see what we came up with. Santa 2.0. So the point of this exercise was to basically, we got a little off track, but to basically talk about the ways in which Santa needs to address sort of modern realities to be believable still. So we wanted to update his mythos, Santa's mythos, to make it more believable to a young kid that there's still a Santa out there. It's December 24th. Santa stands and begins his walk through his departments and out to his sleigh. Santa would have traditionally walked down the steps of his ancient magical toy factory, waved to his wife and many workers, and then snapped the reins of his reindeer to fly off into the night. However, things were different in 2022, and Santa had several additional departments he had to check with to deal with a new world. He sighed a deep sigh and pressed open the door marked Electronic Surveillance and Privacy Department. Inside, there was a staff of tech workers and programmers more prone to cynicism and sarcasm than Santa's regular elves. Ho, 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 ho! Edward, Greg, Deacon, and of course Chad! I hope you've been good this year! Santa greeted them with a strained smile. Are you wearing a Fitbit? And Edward said, rolling his eyes to his peers. Why, yes! Mrs. Claus got it as an early gift. Well, Mrs. Claus isn't going to be charged with keeping you secure from data leaks, Chad snickered. You can't be wearing a tracking bracelet, obviously. Before Santa knew it, Deacon was helping himself to Santa's wrist. Well, now, Santa Claus gave that as a gift. No can do. Anyways, we have the emergency EMP blast. Just get it sewn into your jacket down in logistics and fashion. Remember, it's one-time use, but we'll blast any cell phone or electronics in range if you happen to have some naughty kids trying to TikTok you. Well, my dear boy Snowden, what is a TikTok? Santa asked, trying to keep his smile. But the steely-faced and humorless men before him. Just use the EMP pulse if you see a phone, old man, Chad said with an eye roll. And you aren't getting your Fitbit back. Santa was edged out of the room, but not before shouting, But my steps! How will I know them? Santa relented and continued down his multi-level plaza of toy distribution to his next department. Marketing. Where we pretty much could have spent the whole stream. While Santa finds the tedious cynicism of his electronic security division tiring, truly, he hated nothing more than the toxic positivity of his marketing division. Santa had long held that Santa thrived on what his team would have called grassroots word-of-mouth high-energy youth messaging, or he would have called kids talking about him. Santa let out a 15-second sigh. before pushing open the door to his marketing department. He could barely stand to smile as the many clean and trendy suited people stretched their lips open to big white bleached tooth smiles and said, "Oh, it is the big day, isn't it, big guy?" Yes, Derek, it's the big day. Ho, ho, ho," Santa wheezed out. "Can't wait to get those presents to all the good kids." "Oh, right, big guy, we discussed this, but now is as good a time as any for a refresher," Derek said and gestured to Teresa, who was off to the side, seemingly prepared to pick at Santa's blunders. Santa already knew what was coming. As a part of an expensive bit of market research, it was concluded that the word naughty had collected too many risque associations and would now no longer be appropriate to be used for the intended child of minimal moral fiber, which was what those children were called for about 2 months, until further research found that didn't test well either. So instead, the term troubled was found to be the least controversial with children from 8 to 12 and adults with children of that age. Now that didn't end there, but the short of it is, instead of naughty and niceless, Santa was to refer to it as the troubled and centered children, or though there was discussion still that misunderstood and high-performing EQ young persons might be the next draft of the name. So as Teresa re-explained this, Santa cut her off with a "Ho, ho, 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 I know you mean well, but I have to go." Derek, Teresa said, "did that, ho-ho feel sincere to you?" Derek shook his head. "No, bud, you gotta find a solid ho in you. Remember, that's our main piece of marketing out in the meat space. You don't want to run billboards. You gotta get that ho loud and proud, bud." Yes, I'll work on my hoes," muttered Santa flatly. "And don't forget the flyers for the misunderstood kids," Derek said. Santa nodded. With inflation being what it was, and concerns about the moral arbitration of an ancient elf man, it had been decided that all kids would get gifts, but the less savory ones would have the gifts costs supplemented by brand tie-ins like Raid Shadow Legends and Squarespace flyers. Santa stared down at one of the flyers and it said, "Download now and use the code Santa Rocks for half your first Ultra off your first Ultra set." Santa had several more stops before he was to fly out. He was meant to check on an issue in the chip factory with a shortage of silicone. He had several brief meetings he was meant to partake in with the safety team on the packaging lines. He was supposed to sign off on a deal with Amazon to have stand-in Santas deliver some of his more spread-out visits to reduce his mana costs for travel. But Santa didn't care about an orderly operation. He wanted to get to giving gifts. And so, feeling suddenly light of heart, he walked past his fashion department, his steel foundry, his international import division, and his 50 square miles of factories, 10 of which was just a lumber mill being fed a forest a day to make all the wrapping paper he required, until he reached his 2-mile-long sleigh. And yes, he still had most of his reindeer, though about 4 of them tried to unionize, so he fired them and replaced them with a hybrid drive he ordered custom from Elon Musk at Tesla. And now, when he finally reached his pilot station, he started up the sleigh, and of course, the hybrid drive from Tesla did what it does, exploded into flames, and drove the remaining reindeer with twice the force to take off into the sky. So kids, when you look up and see the flaming, smoldering Tesla-branded drive choking Santa with its smoke, and his remaining reindeer doing the work of twice as many on a temporary gig contract, just remember 'tis the season in 2022. Enjoy it while you can, because the melting permafrost is going to collapse all of Santa's factories, and then Christmas is done. Merry Christmas to all, and to all, use Goodnight Santa 6 at the checkout for Audible to get your first 6 audiobooks free. Oh, ho, oh dear. Well, that was another stupid day with us. I feel like that story hit like. If you want to subscribe, you can, but I mean, I understand. Why you wouldn't? I made myself laugh. And that's really what this is about. Not entertaining others, but rather myself. There were tons of ideas in the chat too, if you guys jumped ahead here, that I couldn't find time to fill in. This really, really brought thoughts to mind for people. Big Drew says, I've really enjoyed this deeper dive next week. I was thinking, like, if there is some other version of this we could do next week. I don't know. Big Drew says, truly wonderful. I've enjoyed this so much. I'm glad people enjoyed it. That's the point. I'll think of something fun next week. Maybe we can pick up on something like this. But it was fun to write. Holy crap, is that the time? This has been fun. I've enjoyed myself. I'm glad others have too. Big Drew says he needed it this week. Well, I'm glad, Big Drew. I'm glad you had fun. Thank you, Just Fleece It Out. GS, everybody coming in. If you didn't check it out, even if you're not like a big folklore person, I do think that the Fireside Fairy Tale this week was one of the better ones that I've ever done, because it was historically interesting. There is a translator of German works that I met on Mastodon recently, who makes his works available. He's translating stuff from German that has never been translated from German before, mostly from collections of the Grimm brothers, who we know for their fairy tales, but Grimm brothers were folklorists. They have massive collections of folklore, which sometimes is like a sentence, sometimes is several paragraphs. And basically, it's the Wild Hunt. If you don't know the Wild Hunt, like, it's referenced in the Witcher 3 game. It's the main thing. Wild Hunt is a massive thing in folklore. It comes up everywhere in various forms, but it has so much in common with Santa Claus. And basically, I make the case over several stories, which involve horse meat, golden dog poop, and lots of violence, honestly, in our Fireside Fairy Tale this week. And it's called It's Not Christmas Until Odin Raids the Countryside. Yeah, it was really fun. Even if you're not a regular viewer of Fireside Fairy Tales, I think if you run that in the background and you sort of check in with it here and there, I think you will find something interesting. Yeah, thank you everybody lurking. Thank you Big Drew and GS and everybody else who came by. Remember, Santa Claus needs your money. So make sure you click his affiliate link when you get it in his stocking. Well, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I gotta go cash out the store. So get out of my shop.